Anna stood at the kitchen sink and watched the faucet drip one slow drop at a time. The apartment was quiet except for the old fridge humming and the wind tapping the window. Her hands rested on her stomach as another wave of worry rolled through her. She was not ready. She had told herself that for months, like repeating it could change the truth. Outside, the city looked normal. Cars passed. A neighbor laughed somewhere in the hallway. People lived their lives like nothing in Anna's world was falling apart. She had grown up in a small town where everyone noticed everything. Her mother cared more about what people said than how people felt. Anna learned early to smile when she was hurting. She learned to hide problems behind neat clothes and polite words. So when her life took a turn she did not expect, she did what she always did. She tried to hide it. The father of the babies was not in the picture anymore. He had left with a short message and no promise to return. Anna read that message so many times she could see the words even when her eyes were closed. He had sounded calm, like leaving was an easy decision. For Anna, nothing was easy. Every day felt like a tightrope. One wrong step and she would fall. She worked at a small grocery store. The job paid little, but it paid on time. The manager was strict and always watching. Customers asked questions Anna did not want to answer. Her body changed faster than she could manage. People stared. A few whispered. One woman at the register asked, smiling too brightly, if Anna was married. Anna forced a laugh and said she was fine. At night, she lay in bed and listened to the upstairs neighbor walking around. She counted footsteps like numbers could keep her calm. She pictured the future like a dark hallway with no door at the end. When she thought of raising a child alone, her chest tightened. When she thought of raising 2 children, she felt like she could not breathe. Because there were 2. She learned that during a doctor visit when the nurse paused and then turned the screen slightly. Anna saw 2 small shapes. 2 tiny hearts beating. The doctor smiled and said something cheerful. Anna nodded, but her mind went blank. On the way home, she sat on a bench outside the clinic and stared at her hands. 2. She could barely afford food for herself. She could barely keep her lights on. And now there would be 2 lives depending on her. Her thoughts got messy after that. Sometimes she promised herself she would find a way. Sometimes she told herself she could not. The back and forth exhausted her. She stopped talking to friends. She ignored calls from her mother. She avoided mirrors. Then winter came, sharp and unforgiving, and the day arrived sooner than she expected. The delivery was hard and long. The hospital room smelled like clean sheets and strong soap. Anna gripped the bed rail while voices moved around her. Nurses told her to breathe, to push, to stay with them. Her body felt like it belonged to someone else. When she heard the first cry, something cracked open inside her. The sound was small but powerful. The nurse lifted the baby and placed her near Anna's face. The baby's skin was deep brown, and her eyes blinked slowly like she was trying to understand the world. Anna stared at her and felt love rush in, quick and bright. Then the second cry came. Another baby, another tiny face, another warm body. The twins were placed beside each other for a moment. 2 girls. 2 miracles. 2 heavy responsibilities. The nurse asked Anna if she wanted to hold them longer. Anna nodded, but her hands trembled. She did not trust herself. Her mind was running in circles again. The next day, when Anna was discharged, the hospital gave her a stack of papers and instructions. A social worker asked gentle questions. Anna answered in quiet words. She said she had a plan. She said she had support. Those words tasted like lies, but she said them anyway. At home, she laid the twins in a small borrowed crib that a neighbor had left outside the building. She had cleaned it carefully, hoping cleanliness could make her feel like a real mother. The twins slept close together, their tiny fists tucked under their chins. Anna stood over them and watched their chests rise and fall. For a few hours, she tried. She warmed bottles. She rocked them. She hummed a song she remembered from childhood. The twins calmed when she held them, and that made Anna's heart twist. They needed her. They trusted her without knowing anything about her. But fear is loud when it lives inside a person for too long. Bills sat on the table like threats. Her phone buzzed with missed calls she could not face. She looked at the twins and imagined years of struggle. She imagined a landlord knocking on the door. She imagined the twins crying while she counted coins at the store. She imagined being judged at school meetings, being stared at in the street, being whispered about in that way people whisper when they think they are right. She told herself she was protecting them from a life of pain. She told herself someone else would do better. She told herself many things. That evening, snow began to fall, soft at first, then heavier. The streetlights turned the snow into glowing dust. The city felt colder, even inside the apartment. Anna packed a small diaper bag but did not put much inside. She wrapped the twins in one thick blanket and held them close. Their faces were peaceful, unaware of everything. She left the building quietly, moving down the stairs like a shadow. The hallway smelled like old paint and someone's cooking. A neighbor's door opened somewhere down the hall and then shut again. Anna froze, then kept walking. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might make noise. Outside, the cold hit her instantly. Her breath turned white. She walked behind the building, toward the area where the large containers were kept. Snow crunched under her shoes. The wind cut through her coat. The twins stirred, and one made a tiny sound that made Anna's eyes burn. She stopped near a container and looked around. No one was there. The street behind the building was quiet, and the only sound was the wind and the distant hum of traffic. Anna pulled a clean cardboard box from a shopping bag. She had prepared it earlier, telling herself she was only being careful. She lined it with part of the blanket and lowered the twins into it gently. They lay side by side, their bodies close, their warmth still strong. Anna's hands hovered over them, as if she could still change her mind. She leaned down and kissed each forehead once. Her tears fell onto the blanket. She whispered, "I am sorry," so softly that the wind almost stole the words. For a moment, she stayed frozen, watching them, fighting with herself. She wanted to pick them up and run back inside. She wanted to knock on someone's door and beg for help. She wanted to become the mother they deserved. But fear pushed her forward. Anna stepped back. She placed the box in a sheltered corner near the container, not inside it, trying to convince herself that was different. She told herself someone would find them quickly. She told herself she was not doing the worst thing. She told herself many things again. Then she turned and walked away. As she rounded the corner of the building, her legs felt weak. She did not look back because she knew if she looked back, she might break. Snow fell harder now, covering footprints, covering evidence, covering the moment like the city wanted to hide it too. Anna made it to the front of the building and stopped under the dim light of the entryway. Her hands were empty. Her arms felt strange without the weight of the twins. Her chest tightened, and she held her breath like she was trying not to feel. Across the street, a man named Tom was pushing a small cart, moving slowly through the snow. Tom collected cans and cardboard at night to earn a little extra money. He wore thick gloves and a worn hat pulled low. He was tired, but he kept going because tired did not pay rent. As Tom reached the back area of the building, he heard a faint sound. Not a cat. Not the wind. Something softer, almost like a small complaint. He stopped. The sound came again. Tom turned his head toward the containers, and his eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, careful and alert, and the sound grew clearer. It was a tiny cry, weak but real. Tom's heart dropped. He moved fast now, leaving the cart behind. He reached the sheltered corner and saw the box. He leaned down, opened it, and froze. 2 newborn babies stared up at him, their faces small, their skin dark, their eyes wide in the cold night. Tom did not think. He only acted. He scooped the box carefully, wrapped his jacket tighter around it, and ran toward the street, searching for help. Behind him, in the snow-covered darkness, Anna stood at the building entrance, one hand on the door handle, shaking as if the cold had entered her bones. And somewhere in the distance, a siren began to sound, growing louder by the second. The siren lights painted the snow with red and blue as the ambulance stopped near the building. Tom stood there breathing hard, holding the box close to his chest. His hands were stiff from the cold, but his grip was steady. He kept looking down at the twins, afraid that if he blinked, they might disappear. The paramedics rushed toward him. One of them spoke calmly and asked questions Tom could barely hear. He only nodded and pointed to the box. The paramedic opened it carefully and checked the babies. Both were cold but alive. Their small cries filled the air, weak but strong enough to bring relief. They were taken inside the ambulance. Warm blankets were wrapped around them. One paramedic rubbed their tiny feet to help bring back heat. Another spoke softly, using a gentle voice meant for frightened moments. Tom sat inside the ambulance too, his heart still racing. He kept his eyes on the twins until the doors closed and the vehicle began to move. He did not know their names. He did not know where they came from. But he knew one thing clearly. They were meant to live. At the hospital, bright lights replaced the darkness of the street. Doctors and nurses moved quickly. The twins were placed in warm cribs, surrounded by quiet machines and careful hands. A nurse smiled gently and said they were strong. That word stayed with Tom. Strong. After answering questions from hospital staff and police officers, Tom finally stepped outside. His legs felt weak now that the rush was gone. Snow still fell, but it felt quieter. He looked up at the dark sky and whispered a small prayer. Then he went home, knowing his night had changed lives forever. Inside the hospital, the twins slept under warm blankets. A nurse stood nearby, watching them closely. She noticed how the babies turned slightly toward each other, as if comfort came from being close. She adjusted the blanket and smiled. The hospital had no record of where the twins came from. No mother had called. No family member had arrived, asking questions. The story spread quietly among staff. 2 babies found in the cold. 2 miracles saved just in time. A social worker named Grace arrived the next morning. She had kind eyes and spoke slowly, making sure every word felt safe. She reviewed the situation carefully. There was concern, but also hope. The twins were healthy. They had survived. Grace stood by the cribs and watched them sleep. She had seen many hard cases in her career, but something about these 2 stayed with her. Maybe it was how they held onto each other. Maybe it was how close they came to being lost. She wrote notes carefully and began the process of protection and care. Until more information was found, the twins would remain under hospital supervision. Temporary names were needed for records. Grace chose simple ones that felt gentle. She named them Lena and Maya. Days passed. Lena and Maya gained strength quickly. Nurses fed them on schedule and spoke to them softly. Visitors stopped to look at them, often shaking their heads in disbelief at how close the twins had come to danger. Outside the hospital walls, Anna stayed inside her apartment. She did not go to work. She did not answer her phone. She sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the floor. Her arms still felt empty. Her ears still imagined cries that were no longer there. News spread in the neighborhood about babies being found nearby. Someone mentioned it in the hallway. Someone else spoke about police asking questions. Anna's chest tightened every time she heard a voice outside her door. She told herself not to look. She told herself to stay silent. Fear wrapped around her like a heavy coat she could not take off. Back at the hospital, Grace began looking for a long-term plan. She contacted foster agencies and reviewed available homes. She was careful. The twins needed more than a roof. They needed patience, warmth, and stability. One name stood out. A woman named Ruth. Ruth lived in a modest house on a quiet street. She worked as a cleaner at an office building during the day and volunteered at a community center on weekends. She had no children of her own, but she had experience caring for others. She had fostered before. Some children stayed a few months. Some stayed longer. All of them left a mark on her heart. Grace visited Ruth and explained the situation. She spoke honestly, without softening the truth. 2 newborn twins. Found in the cold. No family yet. The work would be hard. Ruth listened quietly. She did not interrupt. When Grace finished, Ruth looked down at her hands and then back up. She said yes. The transition was careful and slow. Ruth visited the hospital first. She stood beside the cribs and felt her heart shift. Lena yawned. Maya curled her fingers around Ruth's hand without knowing why. Ruth felt tears rise but kept her voice steady. She spoke softly, promising safety even though the twins could not understand words yet. A few days later, Lena and Maya were released into Ruth's care. The car ride home was quiet. The twins slept most of the way, wrapped securely. Ruth checked the rear mirror often, just to be sure they were still there. At home, Ruth had prepared everything she could. 2 small cribs stood side by side. Clean blankets waited. Bottles were lined neatly on the counter. She knew she could not replace what had been lost, but she could offer something new. The first nights were long. Lena cried often. Maya followed. Ruth moved between cribs, holding one and then the other, sometimes both at once. She rocked them gently and whispered stories from her own childhood. She told them about the house, about the morning light, about how they were safe now. Slowly, routines formed. Feedings became calmer. Sleep came easier. Lena developed a habit of gripping her blanket. Maya liked to turn her head toward sounds. Ruth watched them grow day by day. She talked to them as if they could answer. She laughed when they made faces. She cried quietly when she thought about what they had survived. Across town, Anna returned to work. People looked at her differently, or maybe she only imagined it. She kept her head down and moved through her days like a ghost. Every time she saw snow, her stomach twisted. She did not know where the twins were. She did not know their names. She only knew that somewhere, 2 lives were moving forward without her. And in Ruth's small house, Lena and Maya slept side by side, breathing in rhythm, unaware that their journey had only just begun. Time moved forward quietly, one day stacking itself on another. Lena and Maya grew from tiny newborns into curious toddlers. Ruth watched every change with care. She noticed how Lena liked to sit still and observe, while Maya moved quickly and reached for everything around her. They were different, yet deeply connected. Ruth worked hard to give them a stable life. Mornings started early. She prepared breakfast, packed small bags, and walked them to a nearby daycare before heading to her cleaning job. In the evenings, she read them simple storybooks and sang soft songs. The house was small, but it was filled with warmth. As the twins grew older, questions slowly appeared. At first, they were small. Why do we look different from you? Why do we not have baby pictures from the hospital? Ruth answered honestly but gently. She told them they came into her life in a special way. She told them they were brave from the very beginning. Lena listened quietly when Ruth spoke. She remembered details and stored them away. Maya asked more questions and wanted clear answers. Ruth learned how to balance truth with care. She never lied, but she never pushed pain onto them either. School brought new challenges. Other children noticed things. Some asked questions without thinking. Some stared. Lena learned to focus on her books. She found comfort in numbers and patterns. Math made sense when emotions felt confusing. Maya, on the other hand, learned how to speak up. She defended herself and her sister with confidence that surprised teachers. At home, the twins shared everything. Toys, snacks, secrets. At night, they whispered to each other in the dark, talking about dreams and fears. Sometimes they wondered about the woman who gave birth to them. Sometimes they stayed silent, afraid of what the answers might bring. Ruth noticed their silence. One evening, she sat with them at the kitchen table and spoke softly. She said it was okay to feel curious. It was okay to feel confused. She reminded them that family was built by care, not just by birth. Those words stayed with Lena and Maya. As teenagers, the twins faced the world with more awareness. They understood that their start in life had been fragile. They understood that someone had made a painful choice long ago. Instead of letting that knowledge break them, they used it as fuel. Lena studied hard and earned top grades. She spent hours at the library, teaching herself about money, savings, and investments. She wanted control over her future. She wanted security that no one could take away. Maya joined debate club and student council. She learned how to speak clearly and listen carefully. She learned how to read a room and connect with people. Teachers noticed her leadership. Friends trusted her. Ruth watched them grow with quiet pride. She worried sometimes about money and about keeping up, but the twins helped wherever they could. They took part-time jobs. They saved what they earned. They talked about the future at the dinner table. College felt like a distant dream, but they worked toward it anyway. When the time came, both twins earned scholarships. Lena chose to study finance. Maya chose business and communication. They moved into a small shared apartment near campus. Ruth helped them unpack and hugged them tightly before leaving. She cried in the car, but it was a good cry. College life was demanding. Lena spent nights studying charts and numbers. Maya balanced group projects and presentations. They supported each other when stress grew heavy. They reminded each other why they started. During their second year, an idea formed. Maya noticed how many small local businesses struggled with online presence. Lena noticed how poor planning hurt profits. Together, they thought they could help. They started small. A simple website. A few local clients. Long nights and short sleep. At first, progress was slow. Some months they barely broke even. But they learned quickly. Mistakes became lessons. After graduation, they decided to commit fully. They rented a tiny office space and officially launched their company. Lena handled the numbers. Maya handled people. Their skills fit together naturally. Workdays were long. Doubt appeared often. But every time they felt like quitting, they remembered where they came from. They remembered the cold night they could not remember but still felt inside them. Years passed. Their client list grew. Their reputation spread. Larger companies took notice. Lena made smart investments. Maya built strong partnerships. By their early 30s, Lena and Maya were financially successful. They moved into better homes and hired staff. Yet they stayed grounded. They visited Ruth often. They never forgot who stood by them when they had nothing. Despite their success, one part of their story remained unfinished. Questions about their birth mother returned quietly. They did not feel anger anymore. They felt curiosity and a need for understanding. After many conversations, they agreed to search. They hired a private investigator, not with urgency, but with care. They told themselves they were ready for any outcome. Weeks turned into months. Then one evening, an email arrived. A name was found. The twins sat together on the couch, reading the message slowly. The room felt still. They did not speak for a long time. When they finally looked at each other, their expressions were calm but serious. They were not looking for blame. They were looking for truth. Across the city, Anna lived a quiet life. Years had not been kind. She worked simple jobs and lived alone. Regret followed her daily. She never had children again. She never built the life she once imagined. Every winter, she thought about that night. Every snowfall reminded her of what she left behind. She told herself the twins might be happy somewhere. That thought was the only thing that helped her breathe. She did not know that Lena and Maya were searching for her. She did not know that the past was slowly walking back into her life. And as the twins prepared for the next step, they knew one thing clearly. Whatever they found would not change who they were. Their strength was already built. But answers were coming, and nothing stays the same once truth steps into the light. Lena and Maya did not rush after reading the email. They sat in silence for a long time, letting the names settle into the air like dust in sunlight. The private investigator had sent details in a careful way. A current address. A workplace. A short background. Nothing dramatic, just facts. Still, those facts felt heavy. Ruth arrived the next day after they called her. She walked into their living room and immediately sensed the tension. Lena offered her tea. Maya sat beside Ruth on the couch, holding her hand like she used to do when she was younger. Ruth listened as they explained. Her eyes softened, then grew serious. She did not tell them what to do. She only asked if they were sure they were ready. Lena said they did not know if they were ready, but they knew they could not keep carrying the question. Maya said they did not want anger to lead them. They wanted clarity. Ruth nodded slowly. She reminded them that whatever happened, they were not alone. She said she would support them, but she wanted them to protect their hearts too. The twins talked for hours. They set simple rules for themselves. They would meet in a public place. They would leave if the conversation became too much. They would not make promises they could not keep. They would listen, but they would not erase the past. 2 weeks later, Lena and Maya drove to a quiet cafe on the edge of the city. It was a calm place with warm lights, soft music, and simple wooden tables. People typed on laptops or chatted quietly. The twins arrived early and chose a corner table where they could see the entrance. Maya kept tapping her finger lightly on the mug. Lena stared at the door, watching each person who walked in. Their hearts were steady but tense, like a rope pulled tight. Then she appeared. Anna stepped inside slowly, wearing a plain coat and a scarf that looked too thin for the weather. Her hair had gray strands now. Her face was older, worn by time and stress. She paused near the entrance and scanned the room as if she was searching for something she feared to find. When her eyes landed on Lena and Maya, she froze. It was not recognition from memory, because she had not seen them grow. It was recognition from something deeper. She saw the shape of their faces, the way they sat close, the way their eyes held both strength and caution. Her lips parted slightly, and her hands trembled. She took a few slow steps toward them, like someone walking through water. When she reached the table, she stopped and stared. Tears filled her eyes quickly, and she tried to speak but could not. Lena stood up first, not as a sign of respect, but as a way to steady herself. Maya remained seated, watching closely. Anna finally whispered their names, even though she did not know their names. She said, "You are real." It sounded like she was talking to a dream. Maya spoke gently but firmly. She said they wanted to talk. She said they were not there to cause trouble. She said they wanted honesty. Anna sat down slowly. She looked around as if the cafe might disappear. Then she looked back at them and nodded. For several minutes, no one spoke. The silence held everything. Regret, curiosity, pain, hope. Anna started with an apology. Her voice shook as she spoke. She said she had lived with the memory every day. She said she never forgot the faces she saw in the dim light that night. She admitted she had been afraid. She admitted she had been weak. She admitted she did something she could never undo. Lena listened without interrupting. She kept her expression calm, but inside her chest, emotions moved like waves. Maya's eyes stayed focused on Anna's face, reading every small change. Anna explained her life at that time. She talked about being alone, about feeling trapped, about having no support. She spoke about the shame she felt, about the fear of being judged, about how she believed she had no path forward. She did not excuse herself. She only told the truth as she remembered it. Maya asked one question that cut through everything. She asked why Anna never returned. Why she never tried to find them. Why she never asked if they were alive. Anna's face crumpled. She stared down at her hands. She said she thought she would be arrested. She said she thought everyone would hate her. She said she believed the twins would be safer without her. She admitted she was also afraid of facing what she had done. Lena asked another question, quiet but direct. She asked if Anna had ever loved them. Anna looked up sharply. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She said yes. She said she loved them the moment she heard their cries at the hospital. She said love was not enough because fear drowned it. She said she hated herself for that. The words filled the space between them. Love. Fear. Regret. Those words did not fix anything, but they explained something. Maya leaned back slightly and took a breath. Her voice softened. She told Anna they were adopted. They were raised by Ruth. They were safe. They were educated. They built a life. Anna listened with shaking hands, her eyes widening as if she could not believe it. When Maya mentioned Ruth, Anna's mouth opened slightly. She whispered thank you, not to the twins, but to the idea of the woman who had done what she could not. Lena and Maya did not mention money. They did not mention success. They did not want the meeting to become a story about riches. They wanted it to be about truth. But Anna sensed something anyway. She looked at their calm confidence, their neat clothes, their steady manner. She could see they were doing well. That realization brought her a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief that they survived. Sadness that she missed everything. Anna asked about their childhood. Lena answered carefully, sharing some parts but keeping boundaries. She described Ruth's small house, the struggle, the love. Maya spoke about school, about moments of feeling different, about learning to stand strong. Anna listened like someone drinking water after years of thirst. She nodded again and again, tears never fully stopping. When the conversation slowed, Maya spoke clearly. She said they were not there to punish her. They were there to close a chapter. She said forgiveness was not a quick thing, and they were not ready to say that word easily. But they did not want hate to live inside them. Lena added something simple. She said they wanted peace. She said they wanted to understand so they could move forward. Anna nodded, wiping her face with trembling fingers. She said she understood. She said she would accept whatever distance they needed. She said she did not deserve anything, but she was grateful they came. When they stood to leave, Anna looked up at them as if she wanted to hold on to the moment. She asked if she would ever see them again. Maya paused. Lena looked at her sister. There was no clear answer yet. Only time would tell. Maya said they would think about it. She said if they met again, it would be on their terms, slowly, carefully. Anna nodded, accepting the words like a final truth. Outside, the air was cold and sharp. Lena and Maya walked to their car in silence. Their steps were steady, but their hearts were full. They had opened a door to the past, and now they had to decide what to do with what they found behind it. Back inside the cafe, Anna stayed seated for a long time, staring at the empty cups, listening to the soft music, feeling both broken and strangely lighter. Because for the first time in decades, the story was no longer a mystery. But it still was not finished. Lena and Maya returned home late that evening. The city lights passed quietly outside the car windows. Neither of them spoke at first. The meeting had taken more energy than they expected. Not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it was honest. At home, Lena made tea while Maya sat on the couch, staring at the wall. The familiar space felt grounding. Their life here was solid, built with effort and time. Nothing from the past could erase that. When Lena joined Maya, they finally talked. Maya said the meeting did not bring anger the way she once imagined. It brought sadness and understanding. Lena agreed. She said hearing the truth helped her release questions that had lived in her mind for years. They both knew that understanding did not mean approval. It simply meant clarity. The next morning, they visited Ruth. Ruth opened the door and smiled before pulling them into a tight hug. She did not ask questions right away. She knew them well enough to wait. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where so many talks had happened before. Lena explained the meeting calmly. Maya filled in the details. Ruth listened without interrupting, her hands folded, her eyes gentle. When they finished, Ruth nodded slowly. She said she was proud of them, not because they went back, but because they faced something difficult with balance and care. She reminded them that strength was not about pretending the past never happened. It was about choosing what the past would mean. Ruth asked one simple question. She asked what they wanted now. Lena and Maya looked at each other. They had already talked about it, but saying it out loud made it real. They said they wanted to move forward without carrying bitterness. They said they did not want revenge or distance built on anger. But they also did not want confusion. They wanted clear boundaries. Ruth smiled and said that sounded wise. Weeks passed. Lena and Maya focused on their work. Their company continued to grow. New projects came in. Decisions were made. Life did not pause for reflection, and that was comforting. Then a letter arrived. It was from Anna. The envelope was plain. Inside was a handwritten note. Anna wrote slowly, carefully, as if each word mattered deeply. She thanked them for meeting her. She said she did not expect forgiveness. She said she was working on rebuilding her life in small ways. She wrote that knowing they were safe and strong brought her peace she had never known. She ended the letter by saying she would respect whatever distance they chose. She said she was grateful, no matter what. Lena and Maya read the letter together. The words did not reopen wounds. Instead, they settled something inside them. After a long discussion, they decided to respond. Their reply was short and clear. They thanked Anna for her honesty. They explained they were not ready for a close relationship. They said healing took time. They added one important line. They wished her peace. Sending that letter felt like closing a door gently instead of slamming it shut. Months turned into a year. Lena expanded her investment work, helping new businesses plan responsibly. Maya began mentoring young women who came from difficult backgrounds. She spoke openly about resilience and preparation, never about drama. Their story inspired others, even when shared quietly. They remained close to Ruth, visiting often, celebrating holidays together. Ruth never asked for credit. She simply enjoyed seeing the twins she raised become confident adults. One winter evening, snow began to fall softly. Lena stood at the window and watched it cover the street. For the first time, snow did not bring heaviness. It felt calm. She thought about how life could have gone differently. How fragile beginnings did not decide endings. Maya joined her and rested her head on Lena's shoulder. She said something simple. She said they survived. They grew. They chose kindness without losing strength. Years later, Lena and Maya established a small foundation. It focused on education and early support for children facing uncertain starts. They did not put their names on buildings. They did not seek attention. They believed quiet impact mattered more. At the opening event, Ruth stood beside them. She held their hands, her eyes full of pride. She had given them roots. They had grown wings. Somewhere across the city, Anna watched the snow from her own small window. She lived modestly, but peacefully. She knew she could not rewrite the past. But she also knew the past no longer owned her future. She whispered a thank you into the quiet room. Not for forgiveness, but for truth. Lena and Maya never forgot where they started. But they chose where they were going. Their lives became proof that pain could turn into purpose. That strength could be built from broken moments. That returning did not always mean reclaiming, sometimes it meant releasing. And so the story ended not with anger or triumph, but with something stronger. Peace built by choice.